Are you there? Hello? Welcome back, happy listeners. Your host, Rayanne, here, bringing you all the joy, love, and actionable steps that I can. This podcast is supported by Spa True Clinics. With Christmas merely days away now, save yourself the guesswork and call them to secure your gift card. Right now, for every $100 that you spend, they are gifting you on your gift card an extra $20. So you are walking away with $120 for every 100 that you spend. With incredible promotions and specials every month, this gift card goes the extra mile. They are offering massages, facials, skincare products, cool sculpting, Botox and fillers. You guys, your options for self-care are endless, and they have the passion as well as the expertise to guide you. Not to sound too cliche, but this isn't just an ad, you guys. I am full on a customer. I absolutely love Spa True Clinics. So check out their website at www.spatrue.com or dial at 1-844-4-SPA-TRUE. Today is December 22nd, and with Christmas just around the corner, as we all know, and before we get into this amazing, fantastic episode with our guest, Christine Plumb, I want to introduce you to a few organizations that I cannot get enough of. I know firsthand that finances get super tight this time of year for everybody, and especially those in need of basic necessities, which is why I support and have teamed up with two fantastic, incredible organizations, Overcoming Exploitation and Sustain Cameroon. Both organizations are doing boots to the ground outreach and support work, and they need our help to keep going so that they can keep giving. So please, if you have a little extra to give this year, share that bounty. Overcoming Exploitation is creating gift bags and supplying gift cards for meals and necessities to at-risk youth. Now, this organization is all inclusive. This means that however you identify and whatever you are doing to support yourself, you are loved, valued, and supported on their platform. And Sustain Cameroon is based in Cameroon, Africa, and they are currently fundraising to empower 50 child brides with income generation. Every dollar helps, you guys. So even if you just have $5 to give, this goes so far, and it is so appreciated by these organizations. I'm going to put all the links up on my Instagram bio as well as within the show notes, you guys. So please take a moment, and if you can, donate to these great boots on the ground organizations. And I have just one more favor to ask of you. If you have been loving our episodes, if you've been tuning in religiously, we ask that you please share your favorite episodes with your friends on social media and tag us in it. You can tag us at Rayanne Irving and at Rayanne K. Irving Podcast. And if you have time, visit Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, because the reviews and the ratings are what help us to help those most in need. This is how people will find us. Our next guest is Christine Plumb. Christine Plumb is a registered massage therapist and reflexologist, certified Touch for Health practitioner, instructor, consultant, assessor, and one of my mentors. And you guys are going to find out right in the opening just how Christine came to influence my life and helped to create this podcast. So now, Fellow Hollow is going to take us all the way home to Christine Plumb. Good morning, Christine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I would have to say that I am living my best life, to be honest. And oh my God, it is such a joy to have you here in this space with me. And before we go any further, I'm just gonna like take over this. I'm so sorry, you guys, but I mean, I have to tell you, Christine, I have to tell you why. Because I don't think that in all the years that I've known you, that I've ever been able to fully convey the actual dire circumstances under which we met and just the influence that you have had on me. And so I want to share this with you, and I want to share this with our listeners. I showed up at your place, I think it was 6 years ago. And I didn't just show up there. I had been facing some things on my own, and I wanted to take the Touch for Health course in order to take a course called Barry's Body Management, because I thought it would help me to go back to Thailand, which is what I wanted to do at that time. And so I called you up and I said, what is Touch for Health, and how can I take this course, and what's it going to cost? And so you sat on the phone, you explained it to me. And then when I found out the cost, I was so sad. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to circle back around to this because, I wasn't hardly working at all at the time because I had this massive leg injury. I couldn't. I was just working part-time at night shift. But you actually stopped me and you said, I feel that you are meant to come here and take this course with me. You said, and so don't worry about the cost of it. I just want you to come. We'll sort all out that later. And I was just stunned by your generosity. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't even want to accept it. I was so prideful and anyways, but I did. And so I showed up at your place not knowing at all really what to expect from you and from these other people that were going to be there. But anyways, on the first day of class, you asked each of us to talk about why we were taking the course. And when you got to me, I couldn't even get a hello, my name is out. The overwhelm of my life, of all the losses that I had experienced in such a short span of time, it all came crashing down on me in your presence, right? And, I have to say, this is what you didn't know that you were helping me with, which is I was grappling with having lost my partner, this person I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, to suicide. And also I lost my dad to his own form of suicide, and I had to clean up his body, and it's a whole other conversation. But anyways, I was recovering from blood poisoning and bedside surgery on my leg. So for 2 weeks, I had been on intravenous antibiotics that, unbeknownst to me, had wiped out my gut health, my microbiome, driving me into this insane depression. And at the same time, I had also been trying to write my book, which left me living in the past, something called timeless reliving, for those of you out there who don't know about this. And to top it all off, the cherry on the icing here was the steady decline of my horse training business. Ultimately, you smashed that all together, and I was facing the loss of my identity. But I didn't know any of that really, and I couldn't say any of that. I just broke down and started crying and hyperventilating. And there you were, just this teeny tiny pixie doll, this ray of sunshine. And in your calmest, loving voice, I love your voice, by the way, you just asked me so quietly if you could touch my head. And of course, all I could do was nod. I'm just nodding as fast as I can, yes, please come save me. And when you placed your hands on my head, it was like magic. Within seconds, I began to calm down, and I was able to compose myself. And then just as quietly and unobtrusively as you had entered, you released my head and you went back to talking to the rest of the class like it was absolutely nothing. It was totally normal to have a breakdown. And you started to tell us about this thing called brain integration. And quietly after the first day, you actually invited me for this private session with you, which I totally jumped at. And so I get on the table with you, and I remember telling you how afraid I was that I was a narcissist and that I had to be unlovable. And I really thought that I didn't deserve to live. But you worked with me for 2 hours. You held my hand, you held space for me, and you used what I now know to be SIPs, Touch for Health, Leap, Reiki, sound, crystals, and aromatherapy, and your skill set, your authentic self. And I left your place totally spent emotionally and physically. But within weeks, my life started to change. And I am on this path because you were there to intervene and you helped save my life. You were one of my very first mentors and teachers in the space of self-help and leadership. And this podcast, this podcast wouldn't be here, but I wouldn't be here if you hadn't have helped me to reclaim my power. And so if you didn't know it, I wanted you to know that story, that I was that close to death when you intervened, and you helped change my life, and I am so grateful to you, and I'm just so grateful for everything that you've done and that you do, and that you are here with us on the podcast today. So thank you so much. I can't say that enough, and I'm going to start to blubber here in a minute. So, that's my little story.
Oh, what a beautiful story. And thanks for letting me know about that, and trusting in me enough to help you have the support you needed. And as an instructor, I find there are no mistakes in a Touch for Health classroom. The people that end up getting together are all together for a reason. And as an instructor, I'm always learning as well how to be present with people and truly help them on their life path, on their journey. So thank you for trusting in me as well and being open to receiving.
Well, I wouldn't be where I am without getting started in Touch for Health. And also, you introduced me to one of my other teachers, to one of our teachers, Sherry, who's at some point has promised to come on the podcast as well. And
good.
yeah. And so that was, for those of you out there listening, Sherry attuned us for Reiki, and has been one of my mentors as well. And again, that wouldn't be possible without you, Christine, because you introduced me to her. So, I feel like this podcast, this podcast is your success as much as it is anybody's, because if I wouldn't have walked through that door, if you wouldn't have been there to actually help me integrate my brain back in, and we wouldn't be here today. So thank you so much for being a part of my journey, and, for helping to get this whole podcast thing going. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So one of the main deals about the podcast is, the actionable steps, the steps that have helped me to move through, which is what I want to share with the world. And the steps that helped me move through, the very first step I ever took was Touch for Health, actually. And so it's so cool that you've agreed to come on here and not just talk about Touch for Health, but about how you got to where you are, because you wear so many different hats. You are, first of all, you live in Rimbey, in Alberta.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where you do your work, and you teach, and you have your array of modalities that you work through. I mean, you have so much going on. Can you talk a little bit about that? I don't want to misstep or say the wrong word.
Yeah, for sure. I can for sure. So I'm a holistic self-care consultant, and I inspire life-changing transformational experiences whereby I help people get out of their pain and on with their life in a natural way. And so when I started in my journey, I was actually about 16 years old, and I started with foot reflexology. My grandmother introduced me to foot reflexology.
Nice.
And she didn't know a lot about it, but she saw somebody that worked on her feet. And I used to get really bad migraine headaches as a teenager, which now I understand came from a concussion that I had received in a skiing accident at 15.
Oh,
But at the time, I didn't know what was happening. And my grandmother started working on my feet, and I couldn't deny that it didn't help. So I thought, I got to learn all I can about this. Seems kind of strange, but I'm going to go learn about foot reflexology. So I did that, and I was working on people's feet in my grade 12 year, and had started my business then. And from there, I went into massage therapy, and I got my registered massage therapy because I found that also to be very helpful for myself. And I thought, well, if I can help other people, then that's great. And I worked in massage therapy for quite a few years, probably about 8 years. And my hands started getting sore, and people kept coming back for the same thing. And I thought, there's got to be more classes out there I could take that involve the structural body, but kind of help people to deal with some of the nutritional concerns, maybe some emotional concerns that they have going on. So that's when I found Touch for Health and started. Initially, I thought I was going to take this course in Touch for Health to help my clients, and soon realized I had my own work to do. So the first couple years was me working on me and
mhm.
receiving balances from others as well. And once I got myself sorted out enough, then I was able to really start incorporating Touch for Health into my massage treatments with my clients, and eventually decided to transition completely into the Touch for Health modality. And then I took a whole bunch more classes in fitness and exercise to learn more about the physical body, and taught classes. I started a fitness center at one point, and incorporated the Touch for Health in with the people that were working out in the gym. So that was a good aspect. And then I trained in the photocomparative blood analysis as well to bring in that nutritional component so I could really guide people in their nutritional wellness and health, and have sort of that complete package of wellness, if you will, to offer to the community and surrounding area. I started teaching Touch for Health about 17 years ago, and have enjoyed the teaching component immensely because I feel that it's that old saying, teach a man to fish.
Mm.
And it really is grassroots for me that people have the knowledge and wisdom at their fingertips so that they can work on themselves, their family, their friends. And with Touch for Health, that was actually one of John Thie's true visions, was that each family or each household would have a Touch for Health manual, and at least one person in the home would know how to use that manual in an effort to help their families and themselves feel better, which would then promote greater wellness and greater health for communities at a very basic level, and also perhaps maybe cost the healthcare system less money. Working with simple things like a headache, for example, may not truly require you going to emergency or even seeing a physician, although we would always recommend you follow up with the physician for concerns that are outside of scope of practice. But certainly, myself, I found a huge amount of support and help with getting rid of my migraine headaches. It was in my second Touch for Health class, and I walked out of there with no more migraine headaches. So, I mean, it changed my life. It
Mhm.
truly changed my life. And my passion from there was, wow, if I can feel this good, if I can help more people feel as good as I feel and get their lives back too. So that's why I do what I do. It's from a space of gratitude, really, and passion that drives that passion to help people truly get their health back.
I want to say one of the things I didn't hear you say, Christine, which is how accomplished you are. You have one of the I think you're one of the very few people that can actually say that you are a kinesiologist. Like that is how many hours you have put in to teaching and learning, and sharing and engaging in this work that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, I started doing the massage and reflexology, and then went into Touch for Health, and then carried on. And I've taken a lot of other courses and classes, which helped me to achieve the title professional kinesiologist, which is a designation from the International College of Kinesiology, which is where this is sort of umbrellaed from. So Touch for Health is recognized in over 60 different countries, and they all have one umbrella figurehead that they look towards for support, which is the International Kinesiology College. And there was an opportunity at the 2016 conference. I think it was 2016 conference in Banff that I went to. And it was actually kind of a funny thing that happened, because they said, oh yeah, does anybody want to try to get this designation? And I was on the fence, honestly. I was like, oh, I don't really know if I need it. It doesn't really do a lot for me here, honestly, in Canada, because of the way things are set up here.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I can't even reference myself that in Ontario right now because of the rules and all of that. But, I wanted to accomplish that, because they said that only something like 50 other people in the whole world had set out to achieve that level of certification. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to do that, because I've worked really hard. I'd taken classes in LEAP brain integration, applied physiology with Attitude with Essence, the 7 Chi Keys, which looks at the chakra systems. I studied as a blood analyst and had my background in fitness. And I don't know, I think if you look at all the courses and classes that I've taken, I don't know how many hours it worked out to, but I started compiling this application together so I could become a professional kinesiologist. It probably took me, honestly, just 40 hours to put the whole application together. And all said and done, I think I had, by the time I was done counting, and I'm not trying to gloat, I'm just trying to put this into perspective a little bit, 52 different courses or classes that I had taken over the last, 25 years of learning. And I just went, whoa, that is a huge accomplishment. And so when I did the practical observation portion at the conference, I was nervous. I have to say, I was really nervous, but I did very well. And what it did is it gave me a huge sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part of that whole thing, I had messaged my family and I said, guess what I'm going to go for? I'm going to see if I can get this designation from IKC. It's to be a professional kinesiologist designation. They're going to look at all of my credentials and all of the hard work that I've been working towards. The best part, it was so cute when I got home from that conference, my kids, my family, Steve and the girls had built this great big sign, and they were like, congratulations, and you did it. And like, that was just, yeah. And thanks for letting me share that, because it was such a huge accomplishment for me. And I feel very, accomplished in that, I guess is the best word. I'm proud of that designation, because it was a lot of work. And it Touch for Health is just a stepping stone, I guess, into the world of specialized kinesiology. It is a huge world. There's so many different courses and classes to take. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I love doing in my classroom is helping to see people where they're at and helping to steer them maybe in a direction after they've taken the Touch for Health classes, because I have taken so many different courses and classes. I can usually sort of see where somebody's strong suit is and can give them a little bit of direction based on my education and my learning experiences and what I feel they may be good at, and help set them on a pathway to success as well. And I love that aspect of the teaching component.
It's what you achieved is huge. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I can. I'm hoping, because I'm trying to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah.
With all the courses that you've taken, but you're right. Actually, this is a great opportunity to jump into a bunch of the different courses that you've taken and describe what it is that you've taken and why you've taken it. Can you do that? Because of course, you're the reason why I stepped into LEAP, which is an acronym for Learning Enhancement Acupressure Program. And I mean, SIPs, can you tell us more about the courses that you've taken that you apply on a every time you work on somebody? I guess I'm trying to fancy way to
Yeah,
put
no,
it. I'm just
that's a good way. Yeah, that's a good way to really look at it, is how do I work, is what you're asking me.
Yeah.
And this is something that honestly has taken me so many years to develop, and it, to be a fly on the wall in my treatment room for me even is difficult because I work so quickly.
Mhm.
So I took some SIPS training. SIPS is stress indicator point system. And basically and I'm no SIPS expert. I've only taken a few classes in SIPS, but I incorporate it when I discover through muscle testing that the person's body is under a huge amount of stress. And we
Mhm.
need to pull that stress off of the body very, 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 very quickly. I use SIPS as a tool. And it very much so works with the electromagnetic body. And it is fascinating how quickly you can pull stress off the body. It just works beautifully. I quite often use the SIPS when there's been a lot of physical discomfort or pain in somebody's body, and they're really holding on to that pain. Because that's the level of training that I work at currently with SIPS. So it was just one of those, I'm ready to learn something new. I'll go try the SIPS. I heard good things about it, and I just kind of incorporate it sort of as it needs to be incorporated into each balance. I then went on to learn about the learning enhancement program, the LEAP protocol, with Jackie Mooney and Charles Krebs. And I think what attracted me to that course was because because of the photocomparative blood analysis course that I'd taken. And in that, what we're doing is observing the morphology of blood and designing nutritional programs to suit individuals' needs. But then I realized through that, I could not see the brain. I could not, because of the blood-brain barrier. And I realized quickly that that's a huge component. The brain is obviously I'd spent years studying the body and this chi vital energy and all this, but I knew very little about the brain and how it was organized. So I went and took the courses with Charles Krebs and Jackie Mooney, who taught the LEAP brain integration protocol, and started incorporating some of that into my practice as well. I've worked with a number of children actually with the LEAP protocol, and it works great. I've been working with this young gal for most of the summer and part of the fall here, when I've been able to, and getting her learning. She's going into grade 2, and she is having a heck of a time with her learning. But when she first came to see me, she was unable to really speak very well. Like you couldn't really understand her. She was tongue-tied when she was born. So I'm kind of, assessing everything that way with her. And it was just absolutely amazing. She went home. Her dad had been gone away from home for a couple of days with his work. And when he returned home, he looked at his wife and he said, whatever you're doing, whoever you're seeing, take her back and go and get more done, because she had started speaking so clearly that he could understand her. And so the family is just overjoyed because this beautiful, beautiful little girl who it was struggling so much. I mean, if you're not speaking and communicating, I mean, that's all part of learning. So the learning enhancement program is absolutely fascinating. I've only just scratched the surface with it. I don't do a lot of LEAP balances because it is, it's a huge investment of time and energy, and you've got to have a family that's really on board with it. So I've worked more with the LEAP protocol, with balancing out the amygdala and working with traumas and things like that. And I find it slips in very nicely in with the Touch for Health or the SIPs or whatever modality that I am working in. So when I work with someone, I'm actually pulling from many, 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 many different avenues of knowledge. The most recent course I took was the integrative neurocardiology,
Yeah.
Marco, and that was a beautiful course. And so I've been incorporating that in with the leap because I recognize now the importance of balancing the heart brain and then going in and balancing the neurological brain and then making sure that all those connections are communicating correctly with the body as well. I use essential oils when I work as well, and I incorporate the essential oils into pretty well all aspects of my work because I recognize the value of working the subconscious brain using essential oils because it clears the stress so beautifully for people, and it's gentle and it's effective, and it doesn't have to be a lot of work to clear up things like trauma. It can be gentle, it can be effortless, and it just gives people an opportunity to really just get on with their life how they want to live. And it's so empowering to be able to have all these different tools to bring into a session with someone. Those are probably the main ones that I use. I use the Attitude with Essence, and I love that modality. It's Richard Utt's work. I love that because, sometimes people say, oh, I need to get my back adjusted or my, to see the chiropractor or something. And then I kind of joke with them and say, yeah, well, sometimes you need an attitude adjustment as well. And they kind of look at me like, what? And I'll be like, well, it's showing, that your attitude could use a bit of an adjustment. And so it gives, I try to bring a little bit of humor into when I'm working too, because I find it a little bit refreshing. It's fun. I try to keep my balances fun with people.
Mhm.
They don't have to be super heavy. And I think, sometimes people get concerned because they think, oh no, I don't want to go digging around and dredge up all this stuff from my past. Or, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be very gentle. It can be very simple, but yet so profound. In fact, the other day, for as many courses and classes as I've taken, I had a woman come to see me, and I muscle tested, and it just said do a Touch for Health balance with her. So
Wow.
I did, and I started the procedure of balancing. And I think it was probably one of the most profound balances that I've observed. And it was just so gentle. And what happened is we were going through and muscle testing, and then it showed emotion that we needed to identify with the emotion.
Mhm.
And, I won't give a whole lot of details, but the essence of that, when we identified with the emotion, and I just simply asked how that related to her in her life, she very unexpectedly, because she wasn't too sure about this whole balancing stuff, she
Mm.
knew she wanted to feel better, but she just wasn't sure what to anticipate. But it really brought up for her some emotion that needed to be released.
Yeah.
And it was just so beautiful that she felt comfortable with me, first of all, to allow me the opportunity to share with her something new that she didn't know about her body that was maybe blocking her from really feeling well and really having that energy. That was one of her goals, was to have energy through the day. And all it was that needed clearing or bringing up to the surface was this emotion. And the emotion caught her by surprise.
Mm.
She wasn't expecting to feel the flood of the emotion
Mm.
coming up in that balance. And, and I just said, sometimes emotion does come up in a treatment or a session, and it's totally normal. It's totally natural. Tell me about it. And just giving her the opportunity to speak, giving the body the opportunity to speak, and really it just bridges everything together. And it was just one of the most beautiful, simple balances that I've done in a long time. And it was a level 2 Touch for Health balance, and it was just great. And so I love it.
Cool. I think one of the most important things, or it stuck in my brain when I took the courses with you, and then again when I began practicing as a student with people, was what you said to me is that write down the things that come up, because so often the things that you come in and get on the table with, when you leave, as these what were once issues dissipate, we actually can forget that they were ever even an issue, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think you were telling me
Absolutely.
a story about spiders. You had someone come in, I think that was afraid of, that had arachnophobia or something. Do you remember that story?
No, I don't actually.
Oh,
Was it me that had that story?
yeah, yeah, I remember that. You were you said like the issues that we
Oh,
come in can dissipate, and you had someone come in that was, I think it was, they were afraid of spiders or something, and when they left, they came back 6 months later for another session, and you asked how it was going, and they couldn't remember that
yeah.
that had been a bother for them, and so
No, you know what it was? I'm remembering now. It wasn't spiders. It was an overwhelming sense of guilt.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. So it might have been somebody else for the story on spiders, but the one that's coming to my mind,
hmm,
I had done a balance with this gal, and it was right after I had taken the leap training with Jackie,
okay,
and she had come to see me, and I said, let's see if we can clear this up. I explained the amygdala, which is the fight, flight, survival part of the brain that gets activated when we're under stress. And I said, this balancing helps us to really move beyond some of that at a very core level. So if you'll let me do this balance with you, we'll see if we can tidy it up. And it was guilt in relation to, I think it was in relation to her yoga practice, and she really wanted to engage with her yoga practice, and she was feeling quite guilty about it. And so we did the balancing, and I didn't see her for a long time after that. And I thought, well, I guess she knows where I'm at. If she wants to reach out, she will. And yeah, it was about actually 3 months later she came in, and I said, "How are you? How's things going with your yoga practice?" She goes, "Oh, it's fine." And I said, "Well, yeah, like how are you really doing with it? Because when you were here last, and I said you were really upset that you were unable to really perform yoga every single day, and you were feeling guilty about it." And she goes, "No, I don't think I have an issue with that." And I thought, "Jeepers, am I losing my mind?" Like, so I pulled her file. I pulled her file out because I always keep records of everything I'm doing. And no, she was at a 10 out of 10. Like, she was like, I had documented it. Like I said, "No, you were 10 out of 10. You were totally not, like, you were feeling horrible about the whole thing. And it was interfering with your sleep. It was affecting how you were eating. Like, you were really affected by that." And she goes, "No, I'm fine. I don't like," she just almost couldn't believe the
that had
change. Had we not wrote that down, I don't think her and I would have realized together that it was so profound, that
yeah,
the LEAP protocol had cleared up so much of the guilty feeling, that she didn't even feel bad about it. She's like, "Yeah, I can do yoga or not do yoga. I'm totally fine about it. I have an easiness about it." Like, she just totally felt completely different. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And the phobia that I remember clearing was with a gal who, she had a phobia of birds, and really found it difficult to travel
right.
with going to other countries and that, because quite often the things are open and the birds are coming and going. But she was very much aware. In fact, she messaged me on her holiday, um, and said, "I just have to let you know how excited I am. I'm outside. I don't like the birds, but I can be around the birds, and I can enjoy having a meal with everybody. I don't have to hide indoors." And yeah, it literally changed her vacation. So that was awesome. So yeah, people are reaching out all the time with their success stories and sharing, which is beautiful.
I know. I don't think that I don't think that anybody's ever gotten on the table and not told me a story, like a success story afterwards,
Yeah.
and it's always comes after the balancing, and it's so beautiful to see the way that people are enabling themselves, right? Because like I always say, we're holding space for people to balance themselves. Yes, we're in there, you and I and everyone else who engages in this work, we've taken the courses to be able to know where to go and how to do it. But ultimately, the person on the table, this is their success because they are the ones who have opened up themselves and have decided and had a mindset that they want to change something in their life. And then they found, the person to help them enable their own healing. Right.
Mhm.
And I think it's such an empowering, like specialized kinesiology, brain integration, leap, SIPs, applied physiology, neuroenergetic kinesiology, neurocardiology kinesiology. Like it's all of it falls under this big umbrella of specialized kinesiology around the world, or bioenergetic wellness. And it's so empowering that it just, I don't know, it deserves this. It deserves the people that have done the work, that have helped to create those modalities, the people that are taking the courses to be able to be of service to themselves and to others. Like it deserves all the applause. And
Agreed.
it's
Agreed.
so exciting. I want to jump back into more of the stuff that you do though, Christine, because you wear so many hats. Now you use in your practice, you use tuning forks, which is sound medicine. And at some point, Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary is going to come on and talk about sound medicine. But this is something that Touch for Health and specialized kinesiology, bioenergetic wellness uses on a regular basis, which is the tuning forks. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the body operates on a frequency. Everything has a vibration. And so what we're doing when we're using sound is to influence in a positive way the vibration of that organ system or energy system. So I actually use two different sets of tuning forks when I'm working. One is just their Dr. Horowitz tuning forks, and they're just simple vibration 3 megahertz frequency. And the other set of tuning forks, I probably use the applied physiology tuning forks more often. They're actually attuned to each organ system. So the 14 systems that I reference, or that we reference in Touch for Health, for example, we would use the tuning fork, so stomach and spleen, for example, and using those in very specific ways over acupressure points. We can use them over chakras, which is getting outside of Touch for Health. We don't address, just so people listening are aware, we don't get into chakra work with Touch for Health. That's a separate modality. That'd be the 7 chi keys. That we are using the tuning forks to balance the acupuncture points to elicit a response in the chakra system. And so tuning forks can be used in many different ways. And the overall essence is that we're bringing up that vibrational frequency so the body can do what it does best, which is heal itself. The other, I don't know how much you want me to talk about the tuning forks and that,
Talk about whatever is relevant to your practice and to your listeners, which is all of it.
Yeah. So, and the other, so what I like to do, I like to use the essential oils. So essential oils also have a frequency related to them. And so one of the things that I like to do is to put the essential oil onto the area, the acupressure point, the chakra area, or over that muscle, for example, that needs the support, put the essential oil. And then I like to use the tuning fork over top of that because it really helps to bring that vibrational frequency up even more when you bridge these things together. Additionally to that, I use colored light as a method of balancing the body. So I don't actually know a lot about the science behind the colored light, but I do know that when I'm muscle testing, the person who I'm working with, their body will tell me what they need. So if it's sound that they need, we'll identify that. If it's an essential oil that they need, that will be identified through the muscle testing. If it's colored light, that will be identified. So basically, I'm not thinking that I know what the person needs. I'm using the muscle testing to determine what will be the best way for that person to get their body balanced again. Other things I would maybe use, I use the crystals, gem therapy. It can be used as well to bring up vibrational energy in the body and balance the electrical body. I use the Bach flower essences as well as the desert alchemy essences, primarily through Attitude with Essence, that modality. So there's lots of different tools that I've incorporated and incorporate into a session with someone so that they can be balanced, not just through massage or acupressure, but through that vibrational healing. The body does vibrate. So if we can bring that vibration up, we've made a positive change.
It is remarkable. I think one of the coolest things about, getting to work with people, I can't speak for you, but for myself, it's having people come in, and once they've received the session, I think just about every single one of them talks about how safe and how calm and how light they get to feel when they're exiting. And, when people come in, like when I came to you for my very first actual brain, like after I took the Touch for Health, all 4 levels with you, I came in and I got on your table and I felt like I was having a breakdown. But you were there and you held that space and you talked me through it. And and I left there feeling exhausted, but in a way that allowed me to actually sleep through the night again, which was a miracle. Like the work that you do. I don't know. I don't think that there's enough rooftops to rave from, to be honest with you. And maybe you could tell us more about, I want to talk about everything, but maybe you could tell us more about Touch for Health. What is Touch for Health? What, the founder of it, how does it work? What's it entail? Like, let's get into all of the things so that the people listening, when this ends, they're like, damn, I want to take Touch for Health.
Yeah. So Touch for Health was developed by George Goodhart and John Thie back in the late 60s. And George Goodhart was an applied kinesiologist. And him and John got together and decided to create some courses and classes for the public, things that they could do for themselves at home to help with their wellness, really. Simple things that they could do. And from there, it just grew into what now is a series of workshops and classes. But it really just started out as from what I understand anyway, is from a weekend sort of learning opportunity. And they just wanted to get some of these tools into people's hands so they could work on themselves and their families. Simple tools like what you were describing earlier, for example, simple things like holding the forehead, emotional stress release points to help bring about a more calm sense of being on an emotional level. And so that's one of the tools that we look at in Touch for Health is the emotional component. So Touch for Health in its essence is physical, a nutritional, and an emotional balancing for the individual. And each one of those aspects ties into the other. So, for example, if you're getting up in the morning and maybe it's a rainy day and you look outside and you think, oh, I don't really feel like going for my morning walk. So that leads you to maybe not being as active as you normally would be, sitting on the couch, and then you're going to watch a movie, and then it downward spirals, and the next thing you know, you're having a bag of chips and a chocolate bar or something that's maybe not as good for you. Although those days are okay to have, if you have too many of them, it's a downward spiral. And so, simple thing like putting on your rain jacket and going outside for that little walk and coming back home and feeling inspired to then reach for a healthier snack or something to eat, which then may motivate you to watch something more inspiring on television or listen to some upbeat music. So it has more of an upward spiral. So it's really a true Touch for Health is a paradigm of health, really, that allows us to go in and use simple, easy to use techniques to have more of an uplifting, positive, influencing effect on someone's lifestyle. Generally, when people come in to receive a treatment with me, or I guess we don't really call them treatments, they're more sessions, because we want to stay away from the sort of therapeutic approach. I guess it's more about helping people to have better self-care and learn about themselves in a way where they're really putting themselves in the driver's seat. So that's we're assisting people through their wellness by doing that. Instead of telling someone what they should feel or how they should feel or what they should do to make changes, we're just simply using muscle testing to determine where the imbalances are in the body. And from there, we can elicit a healthy or positive response. So, with muscle testing, when we get into checking in with specific muscles, each one of those muscles relates to a meridian system or an organ system in the body. And it's through the biofeedback of muscle testing that we're able to identify where the imbalance is. The imbalance then could be on a physical, nutritional, or emotional level. So when we're teaching and when we're practicing in Touch for Health, what we're doing is identifying where that imbalance is and how we can go about making a change in that essence at that time.
I love that you brought that up, especially because it's, true story, you guys. Like, as you just heard, Christine knew nothing about what had taken place for me when I showed up on her table. And I'll never forget, I had muscle tested. You muscle tested for nutrition, and I was missing all of the major vitamins. Like, there was things I'd never even heard of that were showing up for me. I remember taking chlorophyll afterwards, and I kid you not, again, it was years before I learned that because of all the antibiotics that I had been on that had wiped out my microbiome, they had wiped out my gut bacteria and my ability to self-regulate. That it was by going and taking all those nutrients afterwards that I muscle tested for that helped me to come back into equilibrium.
Yeah, the nutritional part. Yeah, the nutritional part's a really important component. In the Touch for Health manual, it's laid out very nicely because you can actually just muscle test and look up the different foods and or supplements. And basically what we're doing is just demonstrating. So we can't actually prescribe people anything, and that's really important. But what we can do is, through muscle testing, determine what food or supplement may be beneficial or supportive to the individual. And then it's really up to them to choose what's best. Now, some people are just happy to have the knowledge and have the experience, and others actually engage with it and go ahead and maybe use food as a tool to elicit a response. And when you change things on a nutritional level, it can't help but not influence the emotional and the physical components. So the triangle is equilateral that we operate in. The triangle of health is an equilateral triangle. By when you make a change on one component, you can't help but not influence the others. So that's, I think, the part that really is captivating to me is it doesn't matter what avenue, whether you go in from an emotional perspective, whether you go in from a nutritional perspective, or maybe a physical perspective, you're going to have a whole body balance when you're through. The whole body is going to receive balance. And that's the beautiful part about Touch for Health.
Well, and not only that, I think, I love talking about how each balance is geared towards an affirmation. It's geared towards how we want to feel, what we want. And I think that just getting down and sitting down and getting to have that conversation and having somebody like yourself say, how do you want to feel? Where is it that you want to be? What is it that you need that would make you feel your best self. I think that's such an important component to what,
Yeah.
to balancing towards a goal is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, it is the most important part of a balance. In my observations over the years and years and years of teaching, of working with different people, a lot of the time I find after I'm done teaching a class, students will try to rush through the goal setting component, and it is an art, and it does take time to develop. And the best way to do that is through practicing it. But certainly the goal setting is the most important part of a touch for health balance in my observation. And there'll be times where I spend up to 15 minutes, even half an hour, with someone really developing that goal, because you've got to know what you. I mean, it's easy to know what you don't want, and it's easy to know what you don't want to feel. Sometimes a little more difficult to know, gee, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
Like you say, is if you've never had someone sit with you and develop that, it can be a little overwhelming, and it's very thought provoking, and it's a good template or a good base upon which to develop oneself from what I can tell.
It is. And most people, when you ask them, can how does that feel? How does that feel? Like when you say, okay, what is it that you want? And then you come up with this is what I want. Another super important part is saying, can you imagine how that would feel? What would that feel like? And for
Mm-hmm.
so many people, they can't imagine what it would feel like to not have that stress or that trigger or that, the despair, the looming, whatever it is that has been shadowing them for so long. They can't imagine to not have that shadow. And
Yeah.
I think that again is also so important, because it I don't know, it's like planting seeds of faith, I think, really, like
Mhm.
this is attainable if I can imagine how it feels. And I know everyone talks about the visualization. I remember when I got going in visualization about the life that I wanted, I would think and think and think and think and try to see what it was I wanted. But I didn't understand that I had to be able to feel it in order to bring myself in alignment with it. Right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
by feeling, this feeling, by placing yourself there, it allows you to emit that frequency, that sound, that energy, that vibration.
Yeah.
And it allows you to rise up to become that. So you end up drawing these great experiences that you're after into your life because you're resonating with it. And that's such an important part of, it's not just about thinking or believing. You have to be able to feel that. And that's something that you did on the table for me, is you introduced that to me. I remember you asking me, what would it feel like?
Yeah.
And that on our balance of the goal balance there, that was so profound to me. And can you tell people too, just a little bit, like for myself, one of the things I love for Touch for Health, obviously, is ESR. And I love, our switching points. I mean, these are all things that people can do at home, on their own. Can you discuss a little bit more about that, and just, just these very real, actionable steps that people can take?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, yeah. Once we've sorted out what goal or what we want to achieve, and goals are always SMART goals, and so that means they're positive, they're present, they're attainable, they're realistic, and very specific. And once we've identified what it is you want to achieve, then what we do is we start by making sure the electrical body. So your body is bioelectric, and that means it's electromagnetic in function. And so what we do is make sure that the body system is balanced, first of all, at that level. It's a very basic level. It's called checking for switching. And if the person's body is not switched on, it's kind of like having the main breaker that comes into your house turned off. So you come in. This is an analogy that I often use, but it works well. So, for example, if you get home from being out all day, and you walk into your house and you've got some lights that turn on and some lights that don't turn on, and some plugins that work and some plugins that don't work. You've got an electrical problem somewhere in your house. So the first thing that you always do when you are checking the electrical body is you go out and make sure that the main breaker's switched on, because quite often if that main breaker box is switched off, you're going to have, problems in the house. You don't need to tear the walls down and start rewiring right away. You need to just simply go in and make sure the main breaker's on. So in Touch for Health, we use the switching points to make sure that the electrical body is set up for success. And once we've identified that that's happened, and we look at hydration as one of those tools as well, because the best conductor of electricity is water. So once we know that the main breaker is on and there's hydration flowing, then we get down to figuring out with a very systematic approach by muscle testing through the systems. And the systems would be, when I reference systems, what I mean is stomach, spleen, heart, small intestine, bladder, kidney, pericardium or circulation sacs, triple warmer, gallbladder, liver, lung, and large intestine. And we also work with the brain and the spinal cord, so the central nervous system and autonomic nervous system. And so what we're doing is using muscle testing to determine where those imbalances are. And from that information, so let's say, for example, we muscle test the pectoralis major clavicular, that's a muscle in the chest, and we find out that it's not in a locked state, or there's not enough energy moving to that specific muscle. We actually can then, it's a biofeedback technique. So what that means is the muscle sends a signal to the brain, and the brain then sends a signal back to that muscle, but also to the related meridian organ system. And for people that may not know, a meridian is an electromagnetic current of energy in the body. And along those meridian pathways are acupuncture points, and most people are familiar with that term. So those acupuncture points are strong energy points along that meridian flow. And that meridian flow ties back up into the organ involved, which then, through that biofeedback mechanism, we muscle test to determine if it's got enough juice running through it, so to speak, if it's balanced. And so if it isn't, then what we're doing is going in and specifically locating where is the problem in that circuitry? Where's the problem? Where's the concern? Where's the imbalance, if you will? And once we've identified that, it's actually a pretty simple methodology or method to correcting it. So we would use some massages used on circuit breaker switches is how we see them or teach them. So massage on specific neurolymphatic reflex points to help revitalize the energy in that circuitry. And the lymphatic system is the garbage disposal system, and is often one of the first systems that we have to make sure is running correctly or moving properly. And using massage as a tool to get the lymphatic system going is what we do. And then from there, we would go in and check to see if the blood supply or the blood flow is bringing fresh, clean blood to the area, which is a neurovascular. So we're working the nervous system and the vascular system. We're working the nervous system and the lymphatic system, and actually creating a physiological change in the body to elicit a response to the goal. And I think the reason that Touch for Health is so foundational is because our bodies are very physical. It's very important energy work is good too, and emotional work is good, and nutritional work is good, but let's face it, we're very much physical in our essence. We're very much related to matter. And I think the Touch for Health is so profound because we're doing actual physical corrections on the body that make a change quickly and effortlessly, really. So that might answer more of those sort of queries or questions on how does Touch for Health really work. So we're actually working with the structural body to make the change.
Oh, you are just, you know your shit. That is, that's, yeah, I haven't heard Touch for Health explained that well since I took your course, to be honest with you. So, and I didn't retain half the information that you just threw out there on the table. So that's awesome. I'm going to be rolling back and referencing that again.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about, because there are 4 different modules, right? 4 different levels. Could you talk a little bit about what's in each level so that people know what to expect if they want to sign up for the course and what it is that they're getting into? Oh, and before that, actually, can you explain what muscle testing is to people and how it works? Because that's something that gets a lot of head shakes. And I think that that's super important for people to understand, just the way that muscle testing does work.
Yeah, so that's what I was just trying to explain a little bit, is that biofeedback mechanism, in that each organ or each muscle relates to a specific organ system in the body, and that organ system gets its name from the meridian system. So I guess it kind of brings in that. What am I trying to articulate? It brings in the traditional Chinese medical medicine's view of the meridians and the applied kinesiology's view of muscles, and it bridges them together. I think that's probably a good place to start. So it works on a biofeedback mechanism. And maybe I'll explain it in a different way that might make a little bit more sense. So, for example, your blood pressure is regulated by a biofeedback mechanism. So, when you stand up and decide, I'm going to go for a walk and then I'm going to start jogging, what happens is your blood starts to flow through your body faster. And as a result, it's the vascular system, your veins and arteries are sending a message up to the brain that says, whoa, we better open up the vascular system a little because the blood's moving faster. So those veins have to get bigger, dilate. And as a result of that, then there's more space for that blood to flow through. And that's all done through the brain and the body communicating through this, what's called a biofeedback system. And then when we stop running or jogging and start slowing things down a little bit, the blood pressure then has to respond to that. And the way it does that is, again, through that biofeedback mechanism. Oh, there's not enough blood flowing through the system, and that causes things to start constricting a little bit more, which regulates the blood pressure. So I think that might be a good sort of analogy to hold when we talk about biofeedback mechanisms. Your whole entire body runs off a biofeedback mechanism. And through muscle testing, we're tapping into that biofeedback mechanism between the muscle, the organ, and the brain. And so it's that kind of that circuit or that feedback that we're looking to get. So each of the muscles that we test relate to a very specific organ system or gland. And, I just wanted to point out too, before I talk any further about that, it's not a diagnostic test. So someone would hold their arm or leg in a certain position, and we would go through the actual muscle movement. So you're actually taking the muscle through its full range of motion movement, bringing it back to the starting point and testing the muscle from a contracted position and noticing whether or not it locks or unlocks. And we don't really use the word strong or weak when we're using muscle testing, because it's really not how, most people's muscles could, I'm not the biggest gal on the planet. I'm quite tiny. And I always say to people, you could probably overpower me, but I'm not looking to see how strong you are. I'm looking to see how is the brain, the muscle, and the organ system all communicating together. So when we do Touch for Health muscle testing, we're actually using about 2 pounds of pressure, and we're looking for 2 inches of movement, and we're muscle testing for about 2 seconds. And we're actually looking to see, how is that biofeedback mechanism working? Is it locked or unlocked. And if it's unlocking, then we would go through those series of corrections that I was referencing earlier to find out, how do we get this muscle to engage and to have vital energy flowing through it? So we're looking for ways to increase energy in people's bodies. And most people understand they want to have a little more energy and or a little more power in their muscles. So does that explain muscle testing a little bit?
Yes,
That
was great. Can you talk a little bit about how it sends a little impulse? So like when we ask someone a question, how that interacts with it when we're asking?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we would check in to see that we can communicate properly when we're beginning muscle testing with someone is to check on those three levels: the nutritional, the emotional, and the physical, pardon me. And so on the emotional level, one of the things we would do, and Touch for Health doesn't really reference asking the body questions, but one of the things we do is make a statement. So I would have the person think of something, just slightly embarrassing, and using the muscle testing procedure, they generally would notice the arm would unlock or not be holding as well when they think of something slightly embarrassing. And then when we have them think of something happy and really positive in their life, we would notice the muscle to be more locked or stronger. And what that does is it actually demonstrates that, when you have an emotion or a thought or a feeling that is, maybe seen as being more negative or something that's disempowering, it has a direct effect on how the biofeedback is happening between the muscle, the brain, and the organ. So we don't really address asking the body questions in Touch for Health, but we would rather go more with specific statements to determine where the emotional set point is, and to simply demonstrate that when you're feeling negative, in a negative space or negative thoughts, it has a direct impact and effect on the physical body. So I think that's what I like the most about muscle testing, is we can go through and identify what emotions are maybe influencing the person's state of wellness or state of well-being at a very physical level. What we know is that emotion can actually get tangled up or tied up, if you will, in the fascial network. The fascia is the lining around the muscle, and that's where that emotion likes to hide out. And so by identifying what emotion it is, it can bring a lot of clarity to people, so they can go, oh yeah, I never really thought about that before. Sometimes we can make those connections that our emotional state is truly affecting our physical well-being, and maybe that shoulder discomfort is from something more emotional.
Love it. That's yes, all the yeses to all of that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the 4 different levels of Touch for Health when people start taking the courses? What they can hope or expect or get excited to learn about?
Yeah, so the levels are all, one builds upon the next. One of the things that I really like about the syllabus and how they've got it designed is that when you're done your level 1, you're actually balancing within that triangle of health. You're actually balancing in learning techniques that cover all components. So it's not like you have to wait to the very end to get all the components. So in a level 1, we teach what's called a basic fix as you go balance. And in that, what you're doing is learning the muscle testing for the 14 main meridian systems, and learning the physical, nutritional, and emotional components to balancing each and every one of those muscles. And as you balance through each of those muscles, you're creating a greater sense of self-understanding, and it's really broken down very simply, so that when you are done that balance, you can really feel it. So at a level one, basic level one, fix as you go level, you're really getting the foundational work. You're learning ways to work with the electrical body through those switching points as well. And then in level two, we introduce more of the law of the five element theory, and it's called a fix 1-point balance. So it's sort of a bit of a shortcut at balancing the body, in that you're finding the one point to massage, hold, touch, and or the one emotion that could bring balance into the body. So the 1-point balancing incorporates this law of the five elements, which is the fire, earth, metal, water, and wood components, and central and governing as well. And it's really taking doing a deep dive, I guess, if you will, into the body's essence and finding out where is the body truly imbalanced at a core level. And we introduce in level two the alarm points, and the alarm points are helping us to determine where there is an accumulation or too much energy being blocked. So we start looking at the body from a where is it blocked perspective with the law of the five elements. And then, of course, the methodology is the same as level one. So you're using some of your level one stuff to figure out where do we go to bring about balance in the body. The other component in level two that we like to look at a little closer are those meridians, and we introduce the acupressure holding points as a method of balancing. And the acupressure holding points are very specific and tied directly into the law of the five elements. So it's very, very, very specific points that you're holding to bring about a response at a very deep core level in the body. We always are looking at the emotional components on a deeper level, in each level that we build upon the next, and the nutritional aspect. Of course, as the levels unfold, you're getting more information on nutrition, more information on the emotional components, and so on. Level three, one of the highlights of level three is that I love the most, I think, of that whole level is the color balance. And the color balance, what we're doing is bringing about a change using color as a method to clear the emotions at a very deep level. And the part that I think I love about this is sometimes when we're doing the color balancing is people don't realize the power of thought and emotion, and the color really helps to clear it on a subconscious level. So it really helps to bring about a change on a subconscious level as well when we start incorporating color into the balancing methods. The other strong component in level three that I love is the reactive muscle balancing. And I've used this technique for as long as I've been balancing, and I've been teaching it, and is one of the most profound ways to help people move through physical discomfort or pain. And it's not so easy to explain, and I'm not going to get into all the details here today, but it is one of the most profound ways to clear physical discomfort in people's bodies very, very rapidly. So that's, I think, another highlight from the level three. And of course, we're always addressing the nutritional and the emotional aspects through the balancing procedure as well. And the whole while through all the levels, we're looking at the goal and learning how to do better goal setting and learning those communication skills to help with the goal setting procedure. In level four is kind of where everything sort of ties together. By the time you're in level four, you've learned 42 different muscles that relay and connect back into those 14 primary systems. And level four is where we learn how to balance those muscles in an order that flows nicely for both the practitioner or both the person performing the balance and the person receiving. And learning other ways to deal or to work with the body chi vital energy. The Lao point balance, I believe, is part of that level 4, and it's balancing the deep and interconnected balancing of coupled meridians. So an example of a coupled meridian would be the meridian system within wood, which would be the liver and the gallbladder. And there's a beautiful energy that goes through just those two. And I always get the pronunciation incorrect. It's either a Lao point or a Lu point. I think it's Lao.
I've
And
heard it referred to as Lao.
yeah, I believe that's the correct way to. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong for anybody listening, but it's a beautiful balance, and it's just so gentle, and it's just I love the essence of all of the levels, because each one really brings about a new method or having new tools in your toolkit to really address the body in a unique way. I think in level 2, I'm kind of jumping all over the place a little bit here, but level 2 has a really strong balance, and it's called the time of day balance.
Mm-hmm.
And what that balance does, and I don't want to forget that one because it's one that can be done very easily, it balances the circadian rhythm. It balances people's day-night sleep cycles. And it's great because there's a lot of people that don't sleep well at night, and or maybe are traveling. I know Steve and I, when we went to England, that's where he's from, and we went to England, and we were getting there, and I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning, but it felt like, midnight on our end. And he looked at me, and he's going to get in this car and he's going to start driving, and I'm thinking, holy heck. And he's tired, and I said, why don't you let me do a little time of day balance with you? And he was more than willing to be a participant in that. So we did the time of day, and he said, wow, do I ever feel better? Because he was used to just being tired going back home again, where it was my first time there. And I thought, holy smokes, this is too much. Plus we're driving on the opposite side of the road, which he's accustomed to, being that he grew up there, but I sure wasn't. So we did the switching points and got ourselves, neurologically ready to embrace, all of the differences, and being in a different time zone, driving on the other side of the road, in a different culture where, things are just different. So yeah, so I think one of the things I love about Touch for Health is how applicable it is to just day-to-day living. I don't think there's a day goes by where I don't use something from my Touch for Health knowledge and education to help balance myself. And I think the versatility of it and how easy it is to use is probably the most fascinating part of it. I've had as young as 12-year-olds in my class and as old as 92. And I've had everybody from, the students to stay-at-home moms who want to help their children and themselves just get through the day more easily, to not doctors, nurses, massage therapists. So it's really taught at a very lay person level, mm-hmm. so that everybody's sort of learning on the same level. And so we try to use terminology that is professional, but not so over the top that people can't get the gist of it. And even the one example I'm thinking of, I had this physician in my class, and he just loved it because he said, I just love how simple it is, and I don't have to be bogged down with all the medical jargon, mm-hmm. and yet can apply this to pretty well all aspects of my life. And so I think that's the beauty of Touch for Health, is that it's really designed to be taught to everybody, so that more people can truly benefit from it.
Well, and actually, it's so relevant, especially to a lot. I mean, it's relevant to everybody. But I actually want to jump back, and I want to unpack the time of day balance just a little bit more for our listeners, because a lot of the people that are listening, my hopes is that it's obviously not a lot, but people who have experienced sex trafficking, human trafficking, sexual abuse, and what happens when we get insomnia. So one of the things is that our organs are all designed to work at, specific times of day, which is the whole point behind the time balance. And, I think that for some people, when they work a night shift, or, when it came to human trafficking, sex trafficking, when you develop insomnia, perhaps from PTSD, when you're supposed to be sleeping, or when certain parts of the body are meant to be resting, but you're awake and you're up and your body is pulsating with cortisol and adrenaline, a lot of that can get turned around. And I think that that's one of the coolest things about resetting that circadian rhythm, that sleeping rhythm, is it helps you, because insomnia and or sleep deprivation due to trauma and or just work in general, it really affects the brain, right? And it truly affects the body. And so I think that that's one of the things I love about resetting that in level 2, when I learned it, it helps to stabilize your sleeping hours, I think. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, because you're the teacher and I'm not.
No, you said it beautifully, actually. Yeah. So basically, each organ system has a time when it's at peak performance or peak functioning, and then it has a time when it's resting. And it's important that you're right. So shift work, or just if you're not on a schedule, your body's not on a good daytime, nighttime schedule, it can be really confusing to the organ system. So basically it's a little reset. And it's literally like hitting the reset switch. If you have ever plugged too many things into one electrical outlet and you kind of blow a little bit of a breaker, the time of day balance just offers a little reset. It's like going and switching that little breaker switch and just resetting your electrical body so it's not all scrambled up. And what that does is then allows those meridian organ systems to really have the opportunity to also be reset. Again, the body's bioelectric. So anytime we can work with the body bioelectric, it's just a beautiful experience. And when those organs can then perform at their peak function at the correct time of day, your vitality and your energy is very much increased. And it's not just energy, it's the vital energy. Like, to have energy, a lot of people think they have energy, but like you said earlier, they're running off that adrenal energy, which is a very short-term energy, which leads to the cortisol system being overly involved and engaged. And so the time of day balance just helps to reset all of that so that you're operating with your natural circadian rhythm. That's the best way to put it.
Yes. And again, it makes such a huge difference in your ability to function on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Because you're not battling that fatigue that you have no answer for. Like sometimes I know for myself, especially when I was going through a lot of my CPTSD and insomnia would strike, and I would just be exhausted, but I hadn't done anything, because I wasn't capable of resting because my body was just go, 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 go. That tiny little balance, you guys, it can make such an improvement in your day-to-day going about. It's so incredible. And one final thing, because I know I've been greedy with your time here, but you have a big old machine at the back of your office that you have been using. And could you talk a little bit about that, because it's awesome?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's called Hocket. It's in the States they say Hocket, and I say Hocat. So it's referred to as both of those things, I guess. It's an ozone sauna, and it is best way to describe that. It's a multidisciplinary device. And it is absolutely amazing. Where do I start with it? So when you're sitting in the ozone sauna, so what it's doing is pummeling the body with ozone. Ozone is great. They're starting to use it actually in dental offices and surgeries. It kills pathogens. Pathogens are bacteria, virus, mold, fungus, candida, parasites, those sorts of pathogens. And so now we can't diagnose and we can't say we treat with it. So I need to be clear there. But ozone, if you look up ozone therapy, you can see what I'm talking about that way. So when you're sitting in this machine, it is a steam sauna, and it's pummeling ozone through the chamber. So you're sitting in it, your head sticks out the top, and your body is getting this beautiful spa treatment of oxygen. And when you infuse the body with oxygen, you can't help but get your energy up, and it's truly amazing. I love to put the essential oils into the ozone sauna as well. And there's a special chamber that the essential oils go into. There's also full spectrum light therapy happening in there. While you're sitting in the chamber, the full spectrum, so everywhere from infrared to ultraviolet to all the spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, all those spectrums of lights are being pummeled through your body, around your body. And what else? There's also a electrotherapy component as well. And so you can program, it's much like rifing. So it's frequency therapy again. Rifing or electrical therapy, you can program it to basically, there's a list of 3 pages long of things. So if you want your liver to get more support, or your kidneys to get more support, or if you've had, maybe high blood pressure or something like that, you can program the electrotherapy component. So when you're in there, you're getting that as well. You're also hooked up to the oxygen. So it's medical grade oxygen, much like what you'd find in a hospital or a clinical setting. And so you're sitting in there, your head's sticking out the top, and you're breathing the oxygen through your nose and mouth. So there's a special headpiece that people wear to increase oxygenation. And the whole while you're in this unit, treatment takes about, 30 minutes. There is a heart rate monitor hooked up because it is a cardiovascular experience. So what you're actually doing with all of these different modalities working together is improving your cardiorespiratory health. And it's much like going for a jog, but you're not really going anywhere. You can burn about 400 calories in one session. It's absolutely amazing. It's revitalizing. It's invigorating. Most people report back that they have had a huge increase in their flexibility. They're flexible, like their joint movement, their muscles feel more malleable. They just feel so much better. And it's very relaxing to the sympathetic nervous system, which is really important. So anything we can do to down-regulate or to relax and to truly elicit a response with the sympathetic nervous system, so we can get out of sympathetic overdrive and into a more parasympathetic or relaxed state. Most of us operate at that level. So that's pretty much what it does. It's truly amazing. I'm probably missing some key components to it because there's so many different things that it does. And I'm having a blast incorporating it into, if oxygen stress does show with the LEAP protocol, then I will generally, if there's hypoxic stress, somebody's had a stroke, or when they were born, there was maybe the cord wrapped around their neck or something, that can create hypoxic stress. So I'm using it more specifically to work with my clients that have had those types of stressors to get the oxygen back on in the body. It actually helps. They used to think that oxygen stress killed the neurons in the brain.
Really?
But what they found out recently through science is that the oxygen actually is what the receptors need to be turned back on. And once those receptors are turned back on, then the neurons can fire again. So they used to think oxygen stress or hypoxic stress caused like nerve damage, brain damage, because that's what it looks like. They're basically running on reserve mode, and all they need is to be rebooted and they'll start firing again. So I've been incorporating the ozone treatments and the oxygen therapy in conjunction with hypoxic stress treatments.
Lady, all I want to do is get in my car and drive the 16 hours it would take to come crawl back on your table. I miss you. I know we're kind of coming to the end of our episode, and I could talk to you forever and ever. About all the courses and all the things, and just the profound healing that occurs when people engage with not just Touch for Health and all the courses you take, but you yourself as a healer. I think it's magnificent, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. I do truly hope that you will come back on and tell us even more stuff. But I know for a fact, because I watch you on YouTube and I engage with your Facebook page all the time, you are always giving away fantastic self-help modalities and just actionable steps. Where can people find you so they too can engage with your YouTube channel and learn about different acupressure points? And I think you also show people the various aromatherapy that can help and whatnot. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so probably just my website is the easiest because everything's up on my website. So all my videos that are on YouTube link into my website. My Facebook links into my website. So it's Christine Plumb, ChristinePlumb.com. And you can find me there. You can reach out to me. I love to share information. You are exactly right. I feel that we need to empower one another with education. So I do try to share as much as I possibly can to help others. And I've really enjoyed chatting with you today as well. Thank you so much for reaching out and inviting me in to do this with you. I hope our reach together is strong and unified in helping others empower themselves through their own self-care. And I'm very grateful, Rayan, for you inviting me here today. And I'd love to do another breakout session with you for sure.
So awesome. You were so articulate, and you really brought some powerful knowledge to our listeners today. And I'm so grateful for that. So thank you so much, Christine. I love it. And also everybody, if they want to sign up for a Touch for Health course with you, that can also be found on your website, right? Because you are teaching that online now.
Online. Yeah.
Online. Yeah. Yes. So you don't have to drive the 16 hours or the 2 days, wherever it is that you're listening from. You can take the Touch for Health course online with Christine, and you guys, take it from me. She is an incredible teacher. I would not be here to share her information with you had she not been my very first, not only teacher, but guide and teacher, personally, because I went and I saw you. Oh gosh, I can't even tell how many sessions I came. I had a lot of sessions with you. I know that for a fact. There was,
well, just really quick, just really quickly, in regards to my online teaching, there is an in-person component to it, because Touch for Health is very much hands-on. So what we've done is taken the theory and put it online, but we still do have an in-person component that is mandatory. So when people reach out, I'm more than happy to share those details if they're interested in finding out how the system works with the online and in-person components. So if people want to reach out, that's totally fine. I'll answer those questions.
Awesome. Yes. So good. Well, thank you again so much for joining us here, Christine. It was just such an honor, such a pleasure.
Thanks, Fran.
Disclaimer. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not necessarily reflect the opinions or viewpoints of the host, producer, other guests, or sponsors. I, Rayanne K. Irving, am not, nor have I ever been, a doctor or therapist, and none of what I say is intended for professional or medical advice.